Hey, welcome back to the channel. Yes, it is. It's Thursday, February 1st. We're into February. So I thought today's episode would be how to deal with toxic people in the workplace or around you. Let's dive into it. Alright, so let's see if we can have some fun here, right, guys? Alright, so dealing with toxic people in the workplace. And there is a difference between in the workplace and in home life, okay? I want to distinguish that because a lot of times, if it's a toxic partner, there is no other option but to get the hell away from them. It's as simple as that. If somebody is intent on destroying themselves, there's no sense in having you get destroyed along the way. I'm more geared towards toxic people that you work with, that work for you, that you may know of, maybe at church, functions that you go to. Well, for the most part, we're going to concentrate on in the workplace. And I hear this so many times of how, this one is just, making it hard for the rest of them. And part of the thing that I ask is, are they doing their job? Are they doing their job well? Are they exceeding what you would hope for? See, like I say, this is a touchy subject. Me as an employer, I run into a few what I classify as toxic people. And most of them I got turned around because I consider myself a pretty good people person. And if you're a boss or an owner and you sense that there's one team player that is pretty toxic that the rest are always complaining about, then you have a couple choices. The first thing to take into consideration is, how well are they doing the job that they were assigned to get done? How skilled are they? And I know what you guys are thinking. You say, well, it doesn't matter how skilled they are. If they're toxic for the rest of the tribe, then you need to let them go. Not so fast. And then the biggie is, have you ever sat them down and talked to them? See what the hell's going on. You could have a sick parent to home. An employee with a sick parent to home. A sick spouse, sick kids. Trying to juggle 2 or 3 jobs. Lacking sleep. Dragging in. Or you could have a person that's kind of given up on themselves. See, all of those possibilities are reversible if you're a good employer and if you're a good friend. All right? The one that you're not going to be able to do it is the one that is very sarcastic and doesn't feel like they're expendable. And one thing I learned in life years and years and years and years ago was no matter how good I was always expendable. And that kept my uh, ego in check, per se. But as an employer, if I have an issue with one employee that's causing a rift, first thing I do is I pull them aside by themselves, pull them in the office, and the question is, what's going on? You do great work. I can see that you're not slouching. What is going on that I could help you with? If it's trying to hustle the kids around, get them on the bus, but you got to be to work before the kids are on the bus, so you're worried the kids aren't on the bus. What if I just take, and instead of you starting at 7 in the morning, move you to 8? And instead of working like the 7 to 3, work the 8 to 4. Answer the phones for an hour, later in the day. Will that work for you? And a lot of times that solves the problem. If you show a genuine interest in your employees and what's going on with them, they will go to the ends of the earth for you. I'm telling you right now. A lot of guys say, don't cut them any slack, and it's not. Bullcrap. Because the way I look at it is, a lot of times with most people, the tendency is you spend more time with coworkers and bosses and so forth than you do your own family. Let me say that again. For most of us, we spend more time at work with coworkers and bosses and as a boss than we do with our own family. And like with any family, because now we have a work family, with every family, there are going to be times when people are going to be at odds with each other. And as the foreman or as the boss or as the owner, just like the parents have to do in the family dynamics, you have to intervene, lay the law down, and figure out why is so-and-so doing such and such. See, I'm a firm believer in people can change. And I've also always been very keen to the people around me and their quirks. And I've always enjoyed watching people, learning from people. Especially people of different walks of life. Why are people so gravitated towards the Great Alaskans and on the Learning Channel? Because it's so much different from what you deal with on a daily basis. They're hunter-gatherers. If they don't get a moose, if they don't get a caribou, if they can't catch some salmon, that's their grocery store. They can't just run down to your A&P or Price Chopper or wherever you go and grab food, right? They have to go out and get it and stockpile it. That's the way it used to be until we all became civilized. But I can see where, back when I was working for other people, girls, that I could have been deemed as toxic at times. Because growing up, my grandfather instilled in me, said, if you're not willing to do the best of your ability, then why even do it? You're wasting your time, you're wasting their time. If you're unwilling to put forth 100%. It made sense. Why do something and do it half-assed is what he was telling me. So he gave me a good work ethics, growing up. And he showed me that if you mow yards, if you shovel sidewalks, driveways, rake leaves, that you can make money, and make sure you do it to the best of your ability so it looks nice, so that the customer is always happy. You get paid for it. And then you could take the money you get paid for and go buy stupid crap that appeals to you, you know. He didn't say stupid crap, but it was. Because I'm buying used snowmobiles, used cars, everything else. But when I went to work, you know, where there were a number of other people working side by side with me, I could see where they would deem me as a toxic employee from the other employees that worked with me. Because, you know, it wasn't that I thought that I wasn't expendable. I was thinking, why aren't they working as hard as I am? Why are they leaning on shovels while I'm shoveling? Why not work together and just knock it out and get it done? And then go on to the next. And we could accomplish a lot as a group. And I know that a few of them complained about me. And the bosses could see there was kind of this rift between, you know, my coworkers and me. And it wasn't so much me towards them. I was deemed moody, you know. It was them with me. And at that time, I guess I really didn't care about having a lot of friends. I was there to do a job. You know, that's the way I looked at it. And as long as it paid decent. Because the other jobs that I had prior to that, I always excelled with my coworkers. They were all willing to give it their all. But I had a foreman pull me in. Name was Lynn. And he said, Eric, I want to see you in my office. I said, all right. So he went into his office and he said, what's going on between you and the other 5? I said, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I knew exactly what he was talking about. He said, there's something going on between you and the other 5 utilities. That, you know, is there something going on to home? Is there something? And I said, well, Lynn, there's always something going on to home. And I try to leave home life at home and work at work, okay? I said, the biggest problem that my coworkers have with me from where I'm standing is I'm stripping down to my t-shirt and I'm trying to get the job done. And I'm watching them just stand there and watch me do it. And Lynn said, you know, Eric, and they will. If you allow it, they will let you do all the work and try to take credit for it as well. He said, I've worked with this crew. They're an older crew. And they feel threatened by you. Your age and the speed that you go at threatens them. Because they're no longer young, you know, and fit. They've got some of them 20 years on you. And they can't work at your speed. He said, we appreciate the fact, he said, you're doing an excellent job. I'm not going to ever criticize you about how you approach a job, you know, completing a job and what it looks like at the end. He said, I've watched you. I've watched you from the upper balconies looking down. And because at that point I was I wasn't breaking for coffee breaks like everybody else did. And a lot of times I didn't break for lunch. You know, they wanted to run the trash conveyor into the crusher through lunch. I'd go up there so that all the guys could go and have lunch together. So that's what I told Lynn. I said, these are the things that I'm doing to try to help them out. And do you have any advice? And he said, well, I want you to think about it tonight. I want you to go home and I want you to think about if you were 40, because I was in my 20s, if you were 40 something and you physically can't keep up with somebody your age, what are you going to do? How are you going to feel towards that 20-year-old? He said, because age really isn't a factor, because we've had a lot of 20-year-olds that come through here. They didn't want to do manual labor. That didn't last. So I did. I went home and I thought about it. And he said, just come up with some different ideas of how you would approach motivating these 5 other guys to help you. See, because up until then, I was my own boss. I ran dairies 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And there were no employees. There was me. If I didn't get the milking done, the milking didn't get done, you know, or my wife. She helped side by side with me. Kids, for the first couple of farms, they weren't even here yet, but they came shortly after. But if something wasn't done, the only one I could blame was myself. And I always approached everything to the best of my ability. So I went home and I thought about it. And thinking, why aren't they at least even attempting? And maybe the reason they're not even attempting is because you're willing to do it all, so they don't have to even attempt. So I went back the following morning and I talked to Lynn. I said, here's what I'm going to try doing, Lynn. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to back down. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not shucking my work and stuff like that. But I'm going to see if I can take it down to a lower pace and go ask them how I can help them. Instead of looking for projects to do, talk to them and see what projects they're working on and how can I help you. And we became a pretty good crew, the 6 of us, in the end. Because, you know, they had physical limitations of like lifting on stuff or being the grunt, you know. And I did that with them. You know, I was their grunt, per se. But I was part of the crew in the end. And, you know, one of them said, you need to start taking breaks. Start being social. And talking to us. A lot of things that go on with so-called toxic people are lack of communication. Whether it's a lack of communication from a boss to an employee, or from one employee to the other employee, or something that's going on at home. You'll always find a reason if you look. Now, once you look, are you willing to try to fix and mend it, or continue the way you're going? Alright, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. Curious of what comments you guys are going to have about having coworkers that were toxic, and I know a lot of you guys were business owners or up higher in management and had to deal with people. But I've found over my 61 years, going on 62, that most often the case it was because it was a communication issue. And just by communicating, whether you're a owner or a boss, foreman, by pulling in that person and saying, what's going on and how can I help you? And most often the case, it has nothing to do with the job. It has nothing to do with the coworkers. It's outside of work. You know, I've had employees that have lost family members that it took them a while to get through grief. And while they were doing it, they kept it to themselves. And they caused a rift because the other employees couldn't figure out, why this person was so moody. And we all handle grief differently, right? Some are able to compartmentalize it early on, while others just kind of try to stick it to the back, but it keeps breaking through. Maybe they just got separated. But with owning my own business, one of the things that I approached is basically the people that work for me are my extended family, okay? I spend more time most often with them than I do with my own family. At least that's been the case since we started up. And if there is something going on with a coworker, ask. But in the end, if you have a employee, that has become toxic, that is trying to tell you how to run your business. And I've seen this two ways, okay, guys? Just so you know. I've seen it where an employee thought they were not expendable, and they pushed their limits all the time to the point of, you gotta let them go. I'm sorry, I don't care how good you are, you gotta go. And I've seen other cases that you have really good employees that were asking, why are we doing this way and why are we doing it that way, to one, learn, or two, show you that they're trying to save money and put out a product faster, or how to do a process faster. And if you're thin-skinned as an employer, I could see how you could take it the wrong way with an employee. And it has less to do with the employee and more to do with yourself. That the willingness to listen when you have employees that want to make things better for everybody. All right, so on that note, you guys in the comments, probably going to be a few of them on toxic employees and toxic people, right? Because this topic could go on for hours and hours and hours, of different types of toxicity. But on that note, you guys have a great Thursday. And I'll be back here bright and early tomorrow morning. See if I can't figure out something to fix today or do today for a shop talk video or a tool talk or something. And the other question I have for you guys quick is, do you guys do anything with diesels and hydraulics? Because I have specialty tools to check compression on a diesel engine. And then I've got specialized tools to test hydraulic pressure ranges on equipment. I'm asking because there's no sense in me bringing that kind of stuff to the forefront and doing a video on it if there's nobody that has an interest. I guess is what I'm getting at. All right, guys.